Joe Biden was sworn in as President of the United States on Wednesday, offering a message of unity and restoration to a deeply divided country reeling from a battered economy and a raging coronavirus pandemic. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq set fresh record-closing highs on Wednesday as Joe Biden was sworn in as the 46th U.S. president, and solid results from Netflix fueled a big jump into tech names. Morgan Stanley's profits surged in the fourth quarter, comfortably beating estimates as the Wall Street bank's trading business benefited from coronavirus-induced volatility in financial markets. These and more on TFT News. I'm Mike Wallace, and this is TFT News. Alibaba Group founder Jack Ma met 100 rural teachers in China via a live video meeting on Wednesday morning, in the businessman's first appearance since October, triggering a sharp jump in the Hong Kong-listed shares of the e-commerce giant.
So, I just don't see that.
After months of speculation about his whereabouts, China's richest man, Jack Ma, has resurfaced in a short online video praising China's teachers. It's the first time the founder of Alibaba has been seen in public since October, when he blasted China's regulatory system during a speech at a Shanghai forum. Those comments set him on a collision course with Beijing officials and led to the abrupt suspension of the IPO of Ant Group, the payments firm he controls. The blockbuster listing had been set to be the largest ever before it was abruptly pulled in November. Weeks later, Ma skipped the filming of a TV talent show he created for African entrepreneurs. His absence led to media reports and speculation that he was missing. Wednesday's reappearance by Ma has driven a sharp jump in Alibaba's shares. In the video, he praises 100 teachers and tells them we will meet again when the health crisis is over. According to local reports, the online event was the Jack Ma Rural Teachers Award ceremony. His physical whereabouts were not disclosed. Ma's video came as Alibaba now faces an antitrust investigation by Chinese regulators.
Joe Biden was sworn in as President of the United States on Wednesday, offering a message of unity and restoration to a deeply divided country reeling from a battered economy and a raging pandemic.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
It was an inauguration unlike any other in U.S. history. Democrat Joe Biden on Wednesday was sworn in as the country's 46th president in a ceremony set against the backdrop of a devastating pandemic, unprecedented security, and a deeply divided nation.
This is America's day. This is democracy's day.
Standing on the steps of the U.S. Capitol exactly 2 weeks after a mob of Donald Trump supporters stormed the building in a deadly siege, Biden called for an end to the country's, quote, uncivil war, amid warnings of possible renewed violence.
This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward.
I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
It was a celebration of democracy and diversity, as former Senator Kamala Harris made history as the first woman, first Black American, and first Asian American to become vice president. Attending dignitaries, including former U.S. Presidents Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, wore masks and sat several feet apart. Notably absent was Trump, who flouted one last convention by refusing to meet with Biden or attend his inauguration, breaking with a political tradition seen as affirming the peaceful transfer of power.
A goodbye. We love you. We will be back in some form.
Top Republicans, including Vice President Mike Pence and the party's congressional leaders, skipped Trump's send-off earlier in the day and attended Biden's inauguration instead. Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, and Garth Brooks performed for the occasion.
A nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished.
And at 22, Amanda Gorman made history as the youngest inaugural poet. Some right-wing extremist groups had vowed to disrupt Biden's inauguration in the wake of the January 6th attack, but only scattered protests emerged on Wednesday. The National Mall, typically packed with throngs of supporters, instead was filled with nearly 200,000 U.S. flags. Later in the day, Biden attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia, accompanied by Obama, Bush, and Clinton. Afterward, Biden's motorcade joined an abbreviated parade as he made his way to the White House. There were no inaugural balls or other parties this year due to the pandemic, but Biden, known for his folksy ways, left his limousine along Pennsylvania Avenue despite security concerns and walked with his family to his new home, greeting friends and reporters along the way.
Feels great. It feels good. Feels good.
Newly sworn-in U.S. President Joe Biden got straight to work on Wednesday, signing a stack of executive actions from the Oval Office that undo some of his predecessor's work.
Newly sworn-in U.S. President Joe Biden had barely set foot in the White House before he got straight to work, signing more than a dozen executive actions on Wednesday addressing the coronavirus pandemic, climate change, and racial inequality, and undoing some of his predecessor's most high-profile policies. Among the actions, he started the process of rejoining the Paris Climate Accord and canceled the presidential permit granted for the controversial Keystone XL oil pipeline. He moved to end a travel ban Trump put in place on some Muslim-majority countries and called upon his administration to strengthen the DACA program for immigrants brought to the United States as children.
And I thought with the state of the nation today is no time to waste.
Biden also ordered the wearing of masks and social distancing in all federal buildings and on all federal lands, and moved to end a national emergency declaration that was the basis for diverting some federal funds to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. While former President Donald Trump broke with tradition by skipping the inauguration, leaving early Wednesday morning for Palm Beach, he did stick to one modern-day ritual, leaving behind a letter for his successor. Without going into detail, Biden cast the letter in a positive light, saying he didn't want to say more until he'd spoken with Trump directly.
The president wrote a very generous letter. It's because it was private. I will not talk about it until I talk to him, but it was generous.
The Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq set fresh record closing highs on Wednesday as Joe Biden was sworn in as the 46th U.S. president, and solid results from Netflix fueled a big jump into tech names.
Record closing highs for all three major Wall Street indices on Wednesday, the same day Joe Biden became the 46th president of the United States. Wall Street was relieved with the inauguration going off without a hitch, despite the threat of unrest. Liz Miller is president of Summit Place Financial Advisors.
The inauguration is actually very important. You know, we did see all the major indices sort of dipping around 11 o'clock going into it, and then it's coming out of that rather smooth transition, at least compared to what was expected. And, you know, those who were enthused by the messages of hope in the future, driving the major indices to new highs into the afternoon.
By the closing bell, the Dow rallied 257 points, the S&P 500 jumped 52, the Nasdaq surged 260. Politics could only take partial credit for the rally. Netflix was by far the star of the day. The streaming media giant, which has been besieged by a growing list of new challengers, said it will no longer need to borrow billions of dollars to finance its TV shows and movies. The main reason? It continues to take in millions of new paying subscribers. Netflix ended last year with more than 200 million paying customers worldwide. Shares of Netflix surged 17% to an all-time high. Netflix's quarterly results fueled enthusiasm for other tech companies like Google parent Alphabet that have yet to report. Alphabet shares jumped to a record high as well. In other high-profile earnings, Morgan Stanley, the last of the big U.S. banks to report, smashed estimates thanks to strength in its trading unit. Procter & Gamble, one of the world's largest consumer products companies, boosted its full-year sales guidance for the second time after demand for its cleaning products remained at an elevated level due to the health crisis.
As embattled Tokyo Olympics organizers enter the final 6 months of preparations for the rearranged games on Saturday, one virus expert believes hosting the world's biggest sporting event may be too big a gamble.
The countdown to the Tokyo Olympics enters its final 6 months this Saturday, but organisers are facing mounting pressure and public opposition at home. Japan's seen a severe spike in coronavirus cases and recently declared a state of emergency in Tokyo and major cities. And with 15,000 athletes and their entourages coming from all over the world, one virus expert from Kobe University, Kentaro Iwata, says it's not worth the risk.
Is it like an attitude of bad gambler? The gambler who are losing money would just pour the money to get it back. But it's really usually a bad attitude, and usually they keep losing money further.
Iwata rose to fame with videos in early 2020 criticizing Japan's approach to quarantining the Diamond Princess, a cruise ship that was stricken with COVID-19 before it became a global pandemic. He thinks holding the games is not a solution, but organisers say postponing the games again for a second time is off the table, meaning cancellation or going ahead as planned are the only options. And calling it quits would be costly. Over $15 billion has been poured into these Olympics. Iwata also points to Japan's response to the most recent surge, which he says was slow.
Well, last couple of months, Japan's response was completely a failure, I have to say, because there was enough chance of suppressing the spread of viral infection last year during the so-called second wave.
For now, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has said that the government is preparing as planned, and organisers say they may cut back on spectators, athletes, and even the events themselves. They also say a decision on whether spectators can even enter venues may come by February or March.
Morgan Stanley's profits surged in the fourth quarter, comfortably beating estimates as the Wall Street bank's trading business benefited from pandemic-induced volatility in financial markets.
Morgan Stanley capped the earnings season for big banks Wednesday with a banner quarter. Profit jumped 57% to $3.3 billion, crushing analysts' estimates. Volatility in the financial markets propelled its trading business, boosting its bottom line. The U.S. elections and the release of coronavirus vaccines fueled those trading volumes. Like its rival Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley also benefited from heightened activity in mergers and acquisitions transactions and underwriting IPOs. That lifted its investment banking revenue 46%. Goldman's profit also dwarfed Wall Street estimates, but its executives warned that capital markets activity will probably slow down. Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman has been taking steps to reduce the bank's reliance on trading. Under his leadership, the company bought Eaton Vance and E-Trade to bolster its investment management and broking businesses. The company confirmed plans to buy back $10 billion of its shares this year. Its shares, which have already jumped more than 9% this year, gained further ground in early trading Wednesday.
And those are the latest from around the world. I'm Mike Wallace, and this is TFT News.